And welcome back to centralcoastradio.com. Now Kyle and I are going to take a look at a brand new Chinese film that is out in cinemas. It's called Raid on the Lethal Zone, and it basically tells the story of a special unit of troops that was put together in the 1990s who are there to kind of look after the Chinese border, where you get a lot of drug dealers trying to bring their wares down out of the mountains into China itself. But in this particular year, not only are they facing that, but it is also an absolute disaster that breaks out with heavy rains causing flooding, mudslides, and everything else. But you would think that might keep the drug dealers at home, but no, they decide to use the disaster as a way to try and move their drugs by doing things like hiring trucks and making it look like there's sandbags and stuff like that on it, which means this unit has to go out in this absolute disaster of rain that's falling and try and stop these drug dealers. And it's all roughly based on a true story as well. Mate, what did you think of this one, Raid on the Lethal Zone? Because you were the one that told me that this one was out.
Yeah, I it seems like we don't know whether these Asian movies are getting any kind of local cinema releases until basically the day that they pretty much the day that they're coming out.
Yeah.
Um, and I this is one that was kind of on my radar, even though there wasn't a lot of information about it, because I am a fan of the director Herman Yao. He directed one that I just reviewed just a few weeks ago, really called The White Storm 3. It was like an action anti-drug forces kind of one.
And
And that's
he
kind of
did the Shockwave movies too, didn't he?
yes, yeah, he
Yeah,
did that
yeah.
as well. Yeah. Like I'm become kind of a fan of his movies, and it's odd as well because he's kind of an interesting director that he's started. I think I mentioned this in my White Storms review that like he started off making kind of these like what you'd look at now is like really sleazy exploitation films about serial killers and woman abusers and murderers and stuff, and um like really kind of exploitation kind of films like that. And now he's making these huge action-packed like blockbuster films. So it's I don't know, it's kind of like the way that Peter Jackson or Sam Raimi kind of started off with kind of had the same kind of career trajectory. um Right on a Lethal Zone, it doesn't, at least to my knowledge, it didn't have any real big stars in the way that the White Storm franchise or Shockwave did. Like there was no Andy Laus or really perform actors that I, as a Westerner, would instantly recognize, like I did in those other movies. But it was an interesting movie, and the action and the special effects and all that, they were shot really competently. I think he is a really good director for doing these kind of like massive, huge, epic action films. Um, the the storyline I thought was a little bit weak. I didn't even know that it was based on a true story until afterwards. My brother actually told me.
Yeah.
And so I guess I feel a bit guilty after that, like not thinking like, oh, okay, wait, this actually is supposed to have kind of happened, or at least something similar to it is supposed to have happened. Um, and it was interesting seeing kind of this plan to, well, it's like watching the movie. I kept thinking that, well, why are these cops going up there? Like the drug smugglers are in the mountains, and it just seems like overly dangerous and overly perilous to send cops up there to try to stop them. But on the other hand, that's what the drug smugglers are banking on. Like I think they say in the movie that that this is something that pretty much happens every year. That when there's the floods and the rains, the drug smugglers basically use that as cover to move their drugs around. So this is kind of a necessary operation in order to try to fight the drug trade. Um, the I guess that just in the course of the movie, though, I kept thinking like, well, it just felt like the cops were really putting themselves in harm's way in ways that they didn't need to. Excuse me, or at least it felt like something that they could have maybe they could have been better steps better taken in order to protect themselves. I know that something that they keep saying is that they don't have, well, basically when everything goes to pot and there's going to be a massive there's a dam that's going to burst and it's going to flood the entire area, and so the cops only have a certain amount of time to get out of there. The the operations team that are kind of organizing the whole thing back at base camp, they say that pretty much all the other backup crew, they're all involved in the evacuation from the floods, and so they kind of stretch thin. But later on in the movie, when eventually it comes down to it, they have plenty of helicopters, and there's helicopters just sitting um on the runway not being used. And I don't know, I just think that it was an entertaining movie, but story wise, I don't think it had the character and the plot that I think something like The White Storm 3 had, which made it such an entertaining movie for me. But I did really like the kind of this epic finale that it had when the dam does bust and there's just this kind of chase sequence where they're chasing the basically the leader of the drug smuggling operation through this town as it's flooding. I thought that was really good, well done. But yeah, just story wise, I thought it was a little bit just a little bit subpar compared to some other Asian films that I've watched recently. What did you think of it, David?
Yeah, no, I really liked this one. I've been getting a little bit jaded recently with Hollywood cinema,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to like the big movies, like big set pieces and stuff like that. So I've been kind of found this year that I've been kind of warming towards more Asian cinema with the way that they're doing that. I've seen a lot of really good Thai films this year, and I've seen The Moon, the Korean film, which I think is going to be one of my films of the year. And then I sit down to watch this one, and I just really, really liked it. Like I love some of the characters, like the young cop played by Yayo Huyang, um, where they're all out of their depth, and that's something that when I was went back and read about the actual story about what happened, that's apparently what was happening with the Chinese authorities at that time in the 1990s was that for so many years the drug trade in China had almost been non-existent because people feared what would happen if they got caught. But there was this time during the 1990s where people got greedy and just went, you know what, I am going to try this and see what happens. And as a result, a lot of the authorities found themselves undermanned and unsure of what to do because they just had never faced a flood. And I in this case, in both cases, like a flood of drugs and a flood of actual rain.
Mm.
But I really, really liked it, this film with the way that they did that. I mean, the director doesn't take any shortcuts here. Like there is rain falling in every single scene of this film, to show just how much water is falling. It's like even if they're just walking across the courtyard of the army barracks, there'll be rain pouring down on them. It's like they must have used that rain machine so much when they were shooting this film. And there is some times when that does look a little bit dodgy because it'll be bright sunshine and it'll be raining. So there's moments when it doesn't work, but I love that commitment to it because you just know if this was a Hollywood film, they would have been like, yeah, it's raining outside and like not really showed it. But in this one, there was even like rain falling like constantly on the roof of buildings and stuff like that when they were inside. Um, And I just really like the way that the director did that. The even the stuff on the mountainside, there was stuff that took you by surprise, and I don't want to like ruin it for too many people, but like with mudslides and stuff like that, you were just as
Yeah.
much kept in the dark as the characters were until it actually happened. So and I found myself, even though there was a fairly big cast of the characters, I didn't find myself like getting lost with who was who or where everybody is at a certain time. And I'm like you, that scene or the series of scenes where the water from the reservoir comes down and clashes as the cop and a soldier are chasing the drug guy in four-wheel drives. That
Mm.
was like one of my highlights of cinema so far this year. I just thought that was so well filmed. And yeah, like I get a feeling that this film's going to get remade in Hollywood at some stage. Like it
Yeah.
just, The Rock will probably be like one of the cops or something. Like it's just one of those movies where it's so well filmed, you just know that it's going to get remade. So look, I really, really like this. I thought the acting in it was pretty good for an action, like an action kind of film. There
Mm.
was a lot of heart in there as well, like with especially considering that one of the plot points in this film is that their families have come to visit them
Yeah.
on this weekend. So there's like a few moments in there, but the director knows not to tug at the heartstrings too much. It's just enough in there as an audience to make you interested in it. But even I'm going to be careful how to say this because it could be a spoiler. But even when like it all comes to a head and you've got the drug gang and the troops going at each other like in a gunfight, even that was really well shot, like with people going through roofs and stuff like that. So yeah, I really, really liked it. It kind of reminded me of the opening of the Fast and Furious film that's set in the Videllas.
Mm.
It kind of reminded me of that kind of style. So yeah, I really, really liked this one. So what are you going to give this one out of five, mate?
I'm gonna give it 3.5 out of 5. It was a really entertaining film. Yeah, just shot really competently. Again, Herman Yao's just one of the best, I think, Chinese action filmmakers at the moment. And I mean, it's amazing that he has two huge epic films that both come out the exact same year, and he's got like three or four others on his slate already. So he's a busy man. So yeah, it's going to be a 3.5 out of 5 for me. I did really like it. I thought there were some shortcomings in the plot, but other than that, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was just looking actually at his list. He's got three films coming up this year: The White Storm 3
Yeah,
that you've already seen, Death
yeah,
Notice, and Raid on the Lethal Zone. But I suspect that might have also been because of COVID as well, that like his films got
yeah.
held up. So, but look, no, I really, really love this one. I'm actually going to give this one 5 stars. I really liked
Mm.
Raid on the Lethal Zone. I think it's one of those movies that I was kind of disappointed that it's not showing in more cinemas because I want to go back and see it again. I loved it that much. But yeah, there's a couple of streaming platforms that it's already gone to. So if you do want to check out Raid on the Lethal Zone, make sure you check it out on a streaming platform. Um, Kyle gave it 3.5. I gave it 5, and we'll be back in just a moment on centralcoastradio.com.